Hello, everyone. This is Taryn. Welcome to another NFL podcast. Today, I'm going to give my picks of who I would choose for the NFL awards. This is not a prediction of who I think will win. If it's I had a vote, who would I go with? And I'm going to begin here with the big topic, the MVP, the most valuable player on in the NFL. And we have a couple of great nominees here. So who do I choose? And this is one I've gone back and forth because for me it's either between Matthew Stafford, the Rams quarterback, or Drake May, the Patriots quarterback. Both of them have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens. And the way I look at this with MVP is who's the most valuable. And if you were to put, say, kind of quarterback who's good but not great, let's use Bryce Young as an example. Bryce Young, pretty solid quarterback. If you put Bryce Young on the Panthers, I think they're a 9-10 win team. If you put Bryce Young on the Patriots, I think they're a 7-6 win team. And that's why I'm going to go with Drake May, Patriots quarterback. Now, this is tough because I think Matthew Stafford's had a really amazing season. I think he's been really good. And the thing, though, is I just think Drake May has done a lot more with less. And I think with Stafford, for me, it's tough because you have Puka Nacua, who's a top receiver. I think Devontae Adams has been really great this year. You have Sean McVay, an amazing offensive coach. But I just think Drake May has been able to be very productive and make a lot of plays on his own, kind of extending the play. He's had those big moments. Yes, you can say New England's had an easier schedule, but I look at the win against the Bucks. I look at the win against the Bills. I just think when you think of most valuable, I think you go with Drake May. And I think that if Drake May had, like, Stephon Diggs has had a very nice year. Keyshawn Boutte has stepped up. But I just think the level, and I look at the most valuable. I think for dominant, it definitely goes Stafford. But I think that we've seen, too, the NFL lately sometimes goes to not the best stats, but who's the most valuable. And this is this is why I would choose. Look at last year. Lamar Jackson had better numbers, but I believe that Josh Allen should have won the MVP. And Josh Allen did. I think that was a worthy MVP because Josh Allen was more valuable to that Bills team than when Lamar was to the Ravens. And it feels weird because this is such an awesome year by Stafford, and I feel weird snubbing it. But I think when you look at most valuable, Drake May, 31 touchdowns, 8 picks. He's gone down on the ground as well. He's a guy that can do it all. And I'm going to go with Drake May for me winning the MVP for most valuable player. I think there's a lot of other good nominees here on this list, but Drake May would be my selection. I do think Stafford takes it, but if Stafford takes it, I'm going to be happy, right? I'm a huge Matthew Stafford fan. I think if Stafford wins the MVP, that there's a case for him to be a top 10 quarterback of all time, especially if he goes into the Super Bowl. This could get very interesting very quickly. I just think for me, I look at it as I think this is more of a say, hey, Drake May's been awesome, more of a diss on Stafford here. Also think, too, Stafford's had some games in the past couple of weeks where he struggled in the regular season, right? I'm not talking about playoffs. This is not playoffs including, but just kind of during the regular season. You look at that Seattle game at Seattle, we had trouble closing out the Falcons game. But I still think Stafford has had an incredible season, and if he got MVP, that would be really cool to see. But I'm going Drake May for this here, very back and forth. And then Offensive Player of the Year, we have a lot of great nominees here as well. I wish Matthew Stafford was nominated for this because this is where I would go Stafford. But I'm going to go with Jason, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, for my pick. I think for me that Jason has just been amazing this year. And it's really came between him and Puka. And I think Puka's had a really good season. But I just think Jason has been a bit better stretching down the field. I think something Jason has is that ability to go deep, be that kind of speedster guy, but also be that X factor at getting the ball. I think Puka's really good at ball control, maintaining it through contact, possession, hauling it in. And I think that's an awesome skill, and he's a really good route runner. But I think Jason just has more of that fluidity. He reminds me so much of prime Julio Jones, JSN does. And I think that you could also say, too, I think this is a fair point, with the Rams, they have Devontae Adams, who's had also a very nice year. Shout out to him. And Devontae Adams can kind of draw some of the cover from Puka. While the Seahawks, you've had Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed. Those are good receivers, but no one to the level of Devontae Adams. So Jason has been getting more attention. I think the play that sticks out for me of Jason is that play in Tennessee. We just went deep. So I'm going to go here. JSN for my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. I know that both of these might not be everyone's cup of tea, but again, um, that's what I'm going with. And then I want to go the Defensive Player of the Year. This one, I don't think there'll be that much controversy here. I'm going to go with Myles Garrett here. He broke the sack record with 23 sacks. He is fantastic. And Myles Garrett's amazing. I mean, he's one of these players who was picked number one overall in 2017. The fact that he's still dominating in 2025, he's lived up to the hype. He's been excellent. I think he's one of the best NFL defensive players of all time. So yeah, he's my choice, and I think this could be unanimous as well. I also want to shout out Will Anderson Jr. I still think Will Anderson Jr. is underrated, as is Nick Bonino, the guy below him. So the Texans edge rusher and Will Anderson has just been amazing. The power and speed combo, I think he's a true number one edge rusher, and I really think that this Texans team, they struggled on offense, but that defense was a big reason why they're in the playoffs, and I think Will Anderson Jr. just deserves so much credit. I think Will Anderson Jr. would have won if he didn't have Danielle Hunter on the opposite side. Danielle Hunter's had a really great year, but I think Danielle Hunter's taken some of that kind of pressure off of Will Anderson. But Will Anderson is still amazing. I wanted to give him my flowers. And then I have shout out as well Nick Bonino. Really amazing start to the season. Was pretty good for the final couple months. Quieted down a bit, but he is still fantastic. And I think he's someone that people are going to know the name of. I mean, his just speed and just how athletic he is. He's so dominant, and he's just amazing to watch. But my choice is Myles Garrett. I really think breaking the sack record was fantastic. And Myles Garrett's just one of those players, like, there's only so many positive adjectives you can use to describe him. That shows how good he is. It seems like every week he played, there's a clip going around showing just how fantastic of a player he is. And, like, every time you think he did the best thing, he finds a way to one-up it. So Myles Garrett, giving the Browns some love, he is going to be my choice for Defensive Player of the Year. And then we go here. We'll go and do Comeback Player of the Year. I think this is an award that at times can get a bit understated, but all these guys came back from injury. And this one's really tough. You have Stephon Diggs, Aiden Hutchinson, Trevor Lawrence, Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott. I do want to give some more love to some of these guys here because Trevor Lawrence was also up for MVP. Lawrence, really good kind of past couple of weeks. I do think, though, the start of the regular season was kind of tough. There was a time where it was like, oof, Lawrence was kind of going through it a bit. And then I think you look at Christian McCaffrey. He was really great. The rushing averages were a bit down, but he was really good in the receiving game. I think he was someone that did a great job, really being the focal point of the Niners offense. I honestly think if McCaffrey's rushing was a bit better, I would have probably had him for Offensive Player of the Year. But I was like, okay. Dak had a really great year. I think he's someone who you could really say could win this. But I'm between Stephon Diggs and Aiden Hutchinson, and this is really tough for me. Stephon Diggs tore his ACL last year with the Texans, but he was really good this year. Really great chemistry with Drake May. But I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson, Lions edge rusher for this. He had 14.5 sacks, and there was some conversation last year where Aiden Hutchinson, when he got his injury, it was week 8 of 2024, can he come back to being himself? That was a real question. Can Aiden Hutchinson kind of return back? And I think he did this year. And I think the other thing, too, is that he had kind of the least amount of help out of this. Like, Dak Prescott has great receivers with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Lawrence has a really good offensive-minded head coach. You could make an argument there for him, but I think Aiden Hutchinson, like, this Lions D-line is kind of Hutchinson, and there's not an edge rusher opposite of him. And I just want to give Hutchinson his flowers here. Defensive Player of the Year, he was there as well, but I think Comeback Player of the Year, the fact that he was able to be really good for this Lions team, I think deserves his flowers. And I think that, the Lions had a disappointing year. They missed the playoffs. That's not the way you want to go if you're Detroit, trying to build up this culture and standard. But they still had a lot of players who had a really good season. Also, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back, I think should have been Offensive Player of the Year, maybe finalist. I think he should have been, or someone to be at least talked about, mentioned. But yeah, Aiden Hutchinson had a fantastic year. And I think that he's someone who reminds me so much of J.J. Watt with the Texans. I think maybe J.J. Watt was a better player on Houston than Hutchinson is now. But it's just Hutchinson feels like a Lion. When you think of this Detroit team, Hutchinson's one of the first players who comes to mind. He's his homegrown talent. Drafted by Detroit is what I mean by that. And it just seems like he has an impact. Whether it be a sack or a tackle. He just is someone who seems like he impacts every single game. And I'm excited to see how his future grows with Detroit. But yeah, I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson for comeback player of the year. I think all these guys are really deserving. And I think the fact that they all came back from injuries and played well is really inspiring. And now let's go here. Since we're talking about a defensive player, let's go with defensive rookie of the year. This is tough, the rookie of the years. And I think there's a lot of intrigue of who do you go with. So you have Xavier Watts, safety, Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to kind of break these guys down. I think Watts had a really great year. I think at times you'd like to see more consistency, but when Watts was felt, he was really felt. I think of the Vikings game Sunday night, week 2, where the Falcons beat the Vikings. I think of the Rams game, prime time. I'm sure there's other performances I'm missing, but those moments were like, wow, Xavier Watts is really here. And I think that's a very exciting building block for the Falcons to have in the upcoming years. Really good coverage player. And the Falcons draft was great because they have 2 guys on this list. And I could see Watts just being someone who he reminds me a lot of Buda Baker, honestly, for the Cardinals. I think he is someone who just continuously has done a fantastic job in the big moments. Good tackler, good at getting some picks. I think there's a couple weeks there, like I said, he was quieter, but really great player, and you're excited for him. And then the Browns here, right? Linebacker Carson Schwarzenegger. I think there's a lot to like with him. He was great this year. Good at tackling, good in pass defense, good at tracking down the quarterback. I think of when he kind of tackled Lamar. That was a really great play. So he was a really big impact guy. He was someone I liked in the draft, but the Browns get him in round 2. So they say, okay, maybe him. Then you have James Pierce Jr., linebacker for the Falcons. He's more of an edge rusher and a really good edge rusher. There were some questions about him coming out. Could he translate? And he did. Falcons pass rush, they looked for it, and him and his other rookie, Jalen Walker, were really good. Then you have Nick Amenwori, safety for the Seattle Seahawks. Plays a great role in this fantastic Seahawks defense. Can do it all. Cover, tackle, makes explosive plays. He's a safety, but he's also kind of a linebacker. So he was really good. Then you go to Abdul Carter, edge rusher, linebacker for the Giants, and you say his numbers might be quieter, but I thought he made a lot of impactful plays, especially down the stretch. So this is a really, really tough 5 because I really think it all comes down to when I look at defensive rookie of the year, and when I look at rookie of the year, it's like, okay, who was asked to do a lot and who delivered? And for me, it's between the 2 safeties. I think Carter, you would have liked to see a bit more edge rush production. He still had a really good year, but I think Carter's out. James Pierce Jr., I think was really good, a bit streaky at times. And then Carson Schwarzenegger, like I said, really good linebacker, really good coverage. I just think he could have done. There's some things he could have, I think, been a bit better at. You know what? I'm actually gonna go with him. I'm gonna audible. I was gonna go Nick Amenwori, but he missed some time with injury. And for me, it's tough between Watson and Amenwori. But I'm thinking of Carson. He played great. And I think of the chase down sack tackle he had on Lamar. He's great at tackling. He was good in pass coverage. So I'm going to go with him as my choice. I think who I look at and think is the most NFL kind of ready, I look at him. Who looked most like the pro as a rookie, I'm going to go with him. I'm going to audible on the spot. A little fun moment here. I came in with saying, oh, it's going to be Nick Amenwori. He was fantastic. But I think Watts was really good. I'm trying to decide, but I really think back to what Carson did this year, and he was really great week in and week out. I thought was really fantastic. So I'm going to go with him. And when I said who was asked to do the most and delivered, he came to mind. So I did not plan this out. I'm being honest. This wasn't some thing I planned out. No, I'm going to go with Carson for my pick. And I thought the Browns drafted really well overall. You had running back Quishon Judkins, who was great for them, and tight end Harold Fannin Jr. I thought was really productive. And speaking of all these offensive rookies, by the way, what a great class here. Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is a really good class. So you have quarterback Jackson Dart. You have quarterback Tyler Shough. You have wide receiver Tyrone McMillan, wide receiver Menka Ibuka, and then running back Travion Henderson. So this one's tough because I'm a big Tyler Shough guy, and this is the first time on this podcast I've talked about the Saints, and I'm excited for the Saints next year. I think Tyler Shough's a really good player. He's really good from the pocket. He's patient. He has great vision, and he was in an offense that Chris Olave is a great receiver. This is year one with Kellen Moore. The Saints are still trying to figure things out. You know, I think they could be great next year, but they're still trying to, work some stuff out. I thought Tyler Shook played really well. And it wasn't like he was just doing easy stuff. He was going down the field. He was going everywhere. He was reading the defense. He looked really good. I do think, though, he doesn't start till like week 7 or 8. And I think he should have started week 1. But him starting later, I just, it's hard because of the time played. So I think Tyler Shook, I'm not going to vote for him. And then Jackson Dart as well is kind of the similar case, where you really like the athleticism, you like him extending plays. I do think Dart's passing at times could have been better, but he's not working with a whole ton. He was able to hit some big plays. Like, there's a lot to like about Jackson Dart, but the injuries, I'm going to take him out. And for me, I thought about maybe Tyler Shook going into this, but Shook and Dart are both quarterbacks. Also, shout out to Titans rookie Cam Ward. I thought he did well as a rookie quarterback. But I think both Shook and Dart did well in their own aspects. But it's hard for me with who should get it. So they're out. And you have Emeka Buka, the Bucs receiver. He was really amazing to start the year. You know, when we earlier talked about the offensive player of the year discussion, right? We had these receivers, Jason, Puka, Emeka Buka, right, looked like he was in that conversation for best receiver in the NFL, but then things kind of dropped off. I still love Emeka Buka, though. Baker Mayfield, his quarterback got hurt, so then things kind of fell apart. And then you go to Trayvon Henderson, who almost had 1,000 yards rushing, but he didn't get utilized a whole ton. So I'm going to go Terry McMillan as my winner, the Panthers receiver. And I loved Tech coming out, but he hit 1,000 receiving yards. I believe was the only rookie to do so. I just thought did very well in the Panthers offense that, yeah, the Panthers made the playoffs, but it was not an easy ride to get there. And I really liked the way McMillan played. Great control, great route running, great toughness, good speed. He reminds me a lot of Mike Evans mixed with Keenan Allen. If you remember those guys in their prime, where he's a good route runner, he's also tough and physical, but he can move. He's a perfect mix. And I thought his just connection with Bryce Young, the Panthers quarterback, got better. So yeah, I'm going to go with T-Mac as my choice here for Offensive rookie of the Year. I think, though, this was a really great rookie class on both sides of the football, and it's something I wanted to spend a lot of time on here. Also, too, because a lot of these teams, a lot of the guys for MVP and stuff, it's teams from the Rams, the Seahawks, the Patriots, teams I've talked about. A lot of these teams are not in the playoffs, like the Saints and the Giants and whatnot. So I wanted to kind of spend some time with them, and I think this could be a really good rookie class. I think Tyler Shook is a franchise quarterback for the Saints. I think Jackson Dart for the Giants has great upside, right? Emeka Buka, I think, could bounce back. Trevi Henderson is in the playoffs with the Patriots. But yeah, wanted to just kind of show some love here to the rookies, especially with draft season coming up. I think that's always just kind of an exciting thing to talk about. And then we only have 2 awards left, if y'all can believe it. This one's gone by pretty quickly, but in a good way, because, I don't want this to drag. I want to go with Coach of the Year. Okay, this might take some time because this is a tough one here. You have Liam Cohen, head coach of the Jaguars, Ben Johnson, head coach of the Bears, Mike McDonald, head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and Mike Vrabel, head coach of the New England Patriots. I think there's a lot to diagnose with each one of these. And this is a really tough one because this is a regular season award. That's the other thing, too. This is regular season, so I'm not counting out the fact that the Seahawks and Patriots have made it the farthest out of these teams. I'm not taking that into account. So this is extremely hard because I think there's an argument to be made with each one of them. Liam Cohen with the Jaguars, you can say the offense was better under him. Trevor Lawrence played really well those final couple weeks. Trevor Lawrence is MVP candidate, and Liam Cohen, the head coach, is an offensive-minded head coach. By the way, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen, this was their first year ever being a head coach. So that's really cool to see them here. And I think you could say Cohen did a really good job with the running game. There's a lot to like about Liam Cohen. And I think the Jaguars overall are going to be really good under Cohen. He seems like he has a good culture. Seems like he does the right thing. Just overall seems like this good kind of new age coach that we see, offensive-minded, good culture. Kind of reminds me a lot of Matt LaFleur. Just a good guy you like to have who can call a really good offense. The thing, though, of Cohen is this. I think the receiving room under him struggled a bit. Brian Thomas Jr. kind of had a down year. He did have a down year. Even though guys like Parker Washington stepped up, Jacoby Myers they traded for, you like that, but you'd also like to see Brian Thomas be better. I do think that falls on him. I think in such a tight coaching race, some of that does have to go on Liam Cohen. Now, I do think it also speaks to the coaching that they elevated those players, especially Parker Washington, but I also think, too, it speaks to the coaching that Brian Thomas underdelivered a bit. I also think, too, a big part of the Jaguars was the success was their defense. And Cohen, yes, you could say, helped hire the defensive coach, but I think Liam Cohen did a great job. But I think in such a tight race, I don't think he wins. So Liam Cohen's out. Then you go to Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson, there's a lot to like about him. I think Caleb Williams played very well under him. I think that trick offense that you liked in Detroit was seen in Chicago. I think that toughness, that grit was there. I've been so impressed with Ben Johnson. I think tight end Colson Loveland, who I also think should have been an Offensive Rookie of the Year nominee, and Tyler Warren, by the way, were the rookie tight ends. They should have been on this list. But yeah, Ben Johnson did a great job with the playmakers in Chicago. But I do think an argument could be used with counting up the Jags that Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the Bears, was a big part of their wins. I also think, too, Ben Johnson, this was his first game. He did so many excellent things. I think he could have done better in some games. The Bears famously won a lot of close games. And I think that's a huge compliment to the culture Ben Johnson had, that clutch time play calling, the win against the Bengals in overtime, or the comeback against the Packers in the regular season, right? There's so many moments you can point to Ben Johnson and say he did that. I also think, too, better play calling, you say, okay, you maybe could have won those games with more certainty. So Ben Johnson's out. But he had a fantastic year. And I love what he said at the end of his press conference, where he said, we kind of start from scratch. I think that's good. So I like the culture Ben Johnson has. Both him and Liam Cohen are out. And I kind of view him and Liam Cohen, I view the Jags and Bears very similar. You have a number one pick quarterback. You had a great season. Just some things to build upon. Okay, then that leads us to the final three. You have Mike Vrabel, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Macdonald. This is all extremely tough. For Mike Vrabel, I think Vrabel did a really great job with the culture, the CEO, right? But it's hard to kind of pinpoint that one thing too. I do think that Kyle Shanahan, Mike Macdonald just did better jobs against tougher teams. And like Vrabel did a really good job with the culture. He did a great job player elevation. Shout out to Caleb Von Chason, edge rusher, who people thought was a bust. And he went from a bust to he had 7.5 sacks this year. So Mike Vrabel gets a lot of credit. But it's just such a tough thing in this coaching clinic. I do think Vrabel did an excellent job, though, this regular season. Then it's between Kyle Shanahan and Mike Macdonald. And Mike Macdonald did an awesome job with the Seahawks defense. This is a legendary Seattle defense, right? From every level, they're so unified. But Kyle Shanahan, what he did was fantastic. I mean, this 49ers team was injured. You had like Brock Purdy, the starting quarterback, goes out. These receivers are going out. Everyone's going in and out. But this 49ers offense was just so well coached. Week in, week out, week in and week out. They're consistently getting going. They're playing up these big games against the Colts and the Bears. And it's like, whoa, Kyle Shanahan is fantastic. And he would be my coach of the year, except the 2 times they played the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Macdonald shut them down, and Mike Macdonald's my coach of the year. I went in going with Kyle Shanahan, I did. But the thing with Mike Macdonald is that he shut down some of the league's best. There were moments where Mike Macdonald looked like he was in a separate league coaching. He was coaching circles around. I think of Kevin O'Connell, who's a really good head coach, probably a top 10 head coach. The Seahawks destroyed the Vikings offense. And yes, the Vikings had a backup quarterback, but still, it's like, whoa. So you look at that. This Seahawks defense was just going in and out. The fact that this team shut down the Niners twice says a lot. And I feel bad because Kyle Shanahan's a Hall of Fame head coach. But Mike Macdonald did such an excellent job. I think, too, the other thing with is he maybe didn't deal with the injuries, but, the Seahawks defense is really talented, but you don't have a Myles Garrett. I think Devin Witherspoon's a really good cornerback, and I think you could say he's a superstar. DeMarcus Lawrence had a really good year as edge rusher, but this team was just so well coached up. And it's like Washington Seahawks, it kind of is just fascinating because they play like such a hive mind. Really, nothing gets past this team at all. Hardly anything. And it's not just, you have a couple plays. It's just everything all at once. It's just unified. The Seahawks play as one. And it's something that I haven't really seen from a defense in probably my lifetime watching football. Now, I think the Legion of Boom Seahawks defense is better overall. But I think the way the Seahawks play so unified is crazy. It's really, it is. It's like, whoa, this guy's doing this and then this guy's doing this, and it's just the way that everyone reacts. It's like they all share the same brain, but no, every player is different, and it's due to tremendous coaching. I think the only other thing that comes close is maybe the 2015 Broncos defense, but even then, like the way the Seahawks play is so unique. They played great against amazing opponents. And I'm gonna go with Mike Macdonald here, y'all, as my pick for the Seattle Seahawks head coach, Mike Macdonald here. Just the way he did with this defense is absolutely stellar. Also, shout out to D'Amico Ryans, Texans head coach. I think he could have been on here as well. But man, oh man, I mean, Mike Macdonald, what he did is crazy. And against Kyle Shanahan, like I love the Seahawks team. I'm not even a Seahawks fan, but they are one of my favorite teams in a while. And then we go to assistant coach of the year to end things off, and I'm gonna spend more time on the coaching because I love coaching. It's one of my favorite things. A lot of good guys up here. You have Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. And Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. A lot of names on here. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate Clint Kubiak first. I think Clint Kubiak did a really nice job this year. Sam Darnold had a good year. Jason had an awesome year. I had him for Offensive Player of the Year. But I think these other guys kind of did a bit more with most. I think Clint Kubiak's a good candidate to be a head coach. It seems like the Raiders might be getting him. But I don't know. I would have probably substituted him. I would have put the Jaguars DC, Anthony Campanelli, in his spot. I think Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator, come in his spot. Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator, I would have put in his spot. But still want to give my flowers to Clint Kubiak. He had a good year, though not my choice. Okay. Then that leaves the rest of these four. And this is extremely tough. Brian Flores, I think I'm going to eliminate as well. And I feel bad because I love Brian Flores. The defense played really spectacular in the final 8 weeks, or kind of final couple weeks. They just struggled early on. They really did. There were some games where I thought the defense could have been better. And I think if they kind of had less of a rough patch, I would have probably gone with him. It's close because I think of the game where he shut down the Lions, but also think of games where the defense really struggled and whatnot. So I'm not going to go with Brian Flores. Then that leaves Josh McDaniels, Vance Joseph, and Vic Fangio. And Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph are really interesting because they did an awesome job with those defenses here as well. But my lean, who I would vote for with this, and I think Josh McDaniels did a really good job with the New England offense. I do think, though, I'm gonna eliminate him next. I do think there could have been some better stuff with the run, using Travion Henderson more. I think sometimes the play calling, the play calling was good, but it's just maybe who was used. Player distribution, player usage, I think is something he could be better at. But that leaves Fangio and Vance Joseph, and I have a lot of respect for Vance Joseph. I'm gonna go with Vic Fangio here. No psych out. He is my choice. And the reason is that this Eagles offense was not good this year at all. This was a bad Eagles offense. So a lot of punts, meaning this Eagles defense was on the field a lot, and yet this defense played stellar week in and week out. And I just think the fact that this defense was fantastic and really kept the Eagles in a lot of games just is so much credit to Vic Fangio. Yes, Eagles have some great players on the defense, but also some other guys stepped up. So I think from a standpoint of players stepping up and just how much they are on the field and just the really consistency is impressive. So that does it, everyone, here for my award show. Going through this one more time. Offensive Player of the Year, I have Jason, Seahawks receiver. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with Myles Garrett, edge rusher for the Browns. MVP, Drake May, quarterback for the Patriots. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Tyrell McMillan, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Carson Schwarzenegger, linebacker from the Cleveland Browns. Comeback Player of the Year, I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson, Lions edge rusher. Coach of the Year, I'm going to go with Mike Macdonald, Seahawks head coach. And then Assistant Coach of the Year, I'm going to go with Vic Fangio, Eagles DC. And that ends this one out, everyone. That was a lot of fun to do. Let me know your picks. And again, this is not, like I think will happen. This is just who I have. And again, a lot of tight races for the award show. Let me know who y'all would vote for. Until then, take care and bye-bye.